Good morning. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. We're here on Thursday, and we're here to talk with our Commissioner of the Planning Department, Norma Drummond. Norma is a Westchester County professional of many years' duration in planning, and the portfolio of the Planning Department is a very active one. Been deeply involved in all issues relating to housing, some of the traditional things you expect to see in planning, a review of different projects that are out there in other communities through our planning board that has an advisory role to play. For our purposes today, we're going to talk a little bit about the housing market, rental housing thing, and we're going to slip a little question on census because Norma has been our point person on Census 2020. So here during this pandemic, we've seen the state take some actions regarding rental housing and regarding a host of different other obligations to freeze things in place. But what are we seeing anecdotally in the housing market? How are families paying their rent during this pandemic, Norma?
So we've been studying, talking to the different management companies, building organizations, and our developers to see really what's the market like in Westchester, and really how can the county help.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we have found is that many of the fixed income, many of the families and households who get assistance from either they live in public housing or they're on Section 8, they're actually covered. They're paying their rent. Many of our developers and management companies told us April was not a good month.
Right.
But then as soon as the boost for unemployment kicked in, families had the resources to be able to stay on top of it. And so we're in a normal month, the developers or management companies said they were getting between 85 and 88% of their rent each month. They said they're about 83% for May and June. So that's a really good sign. The issue is going to be what happens when that boost ends
Right.
July 31st. And if it gets extended, that would be great. But once it doesn't, and folks are particularly those who are either in phase 4 or those businesses that just aren't coming back anymore, and we're starting to see that now.
Right.
Our storefronts are starting to see more for rent signs because it's now been 3 months where the businesses might not have been able to pay their rents. So we're worried about what will happen then.
And I think that's probably one of the most important things to understand. As there's been pressure, people have said on the side, we need to reopen the society, get back to business as possible. The new normal will not be what the old normal was. Certainly, we're very cognizant of certain industries. The restaurant industry has a great sense of priority in our minds, and they employ a lot of folks who are relatively low-wage individuals that live on tips, hourly employee, and so forth. And when those restaurants closed, the ability for them to reopen and survive after 3 months, in some cases somewhat more than that, because they've just reopened for outdoor dining. Not everybody's able to do outdoor dining, and even though they had takeout food during this period of time, the revenue and profit levels were just not there. Even with that, and even with outdoor dining, it's not automatically business is back. Plus, we worry about consumer confidence, whether people are ready, even if a section of the industry is open, if they're ready to interact with it. The classic example is getting on a Metro North train going into the city. A lot of people they can run the trains at full schedule, but whether an individual feels comfortable doing that is up in the air. So if the society doesn't fully come back, that means that there isn't going to be the same ability to for people to have the revenue they need to pay for the housing. So what can we do about it? What can the county government do about it? You're the expert in housing and programs. What can we do to help?
So we, thankfully, because of your leadership with our ability to rejoin or reconvene the Urban County Consortium, we have been able to apply for federal grants, and we were successful in getting a $5.2 million grant specifically to prevent homelessness. And so we're going to take this program and establish two brand new programs that are going to really be able to help the families in Westchester, particularly the consortium communities, but it will not be limited to the consortium communities. Where the first program is going to be an eviction prevention program, where we will be able to help families that have fallen behind on either their utilities or their rent by paying up to 4 months of their rental costs. And so that, again, the idea is we don't want to let families where somebody's been working, we don't ever
Right.
want them to get into the homeless system. So if we can keep them in their homes, they don't have to go look for somewhere else because they've been good tenants for so many years. We really want to keep them there. So we're going to set aside funds to be able to do that. We still have to do our application to the federal government, but we do expect this program is going to be able to be online by July 15th, which is still going to be in plenty of time before the eviction moratorium expires. So we'll be able to be in a place to have the program up and running before that expires, and the families really have legal issues ahead of them. But the second program is going to be a much longer term program, which is a short-term rental assistance program. Similar to running a Section 8, as you know, we ran Section 8 for many, many years, so we know how to do that. So we're going to reestablish a program, but we're going to limit it to families that will be able to get up to 12 months of assistance. So again, those families that are in the later starting phases, or those families that are going to be impacted because their job just doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
That business went under, and it's going to take them a little bit longer to find that job. But they were working before. They will have they have the skills. They just have to find something. We'll be able to help them pay their rent for up to 12 months.
So it represents a bridging over their economic situation today to give them the time necessary for them to get fully re-entered into the job market on as soon as possible. So let's do a little municipal math. There are 45 municipalities in Westchester County. By last count, we have 27 in the Urban County Consortium communities. Of the remaining 18, at least 4 of them have their own CDBG program. That's Yonkers, Mount Vernon, White Plains, and Urshel.
Correct.
Right, so they have these
access to benefits,
but they get them directly. And then, therefore, if we do that math, there's still another 14 or so communities that fall outside of that total. And a couple of them are overlay communities like Rye-Town and Pelhamtown, where there's really no unincorporated section to deal with. So somewhere in the vicinity of 10 or 12 communities would not be part of the consortium directly assisted. So does it matter that you live in a certain municipality in order to access these 2 programs?
So for these 2 programs, the statute, the federal program itself, does not have the prohibition about where you live. But the administration and the policies associated with these programs are really set by the municipalities that do belong to the consortium. The Urban County Council really sets the policies, and so their undertaking of when we first talked about these funds was the priority should be those communities that did rejoin the consortium. But that was when we originally got a $1.1 million grant. We've now been awarded an additional $4.1 million just as of last week. And so that's going to so increase our ability to help more families that we maybe very much have the opportunity to go outside of the consortium. So in that case, likely our first priority will be those communities, and there are a couple of them who have said they will join for next year, will join the consortium. So Newcastle and Tuckahoe have both actually already executed the agreements and will join for next year. So again, we'll probably put them as the phase 2, and then look to see if any other municipalities decide they want to join for next year.
For the individual, when can the family apply for these benefits?
I expect the applications to be available on or about July 15th, and I say that because we are submitting our plan, our actual application to HUD on June 25th. HUD will have technically 30 days to approve it. So we can start collecting applications. We will not be able to process any until after that July 31st, until after the 30 days, so July 25th.
And obviously somebody who watches this is going to say, wow, this is fascinating, this is important, maybe I can benefit from it. How do they get more information?
So the information is actually already up on our website. There's a fact sheet up there, and it's on the website, westchestergov.com/CDBG.
Okay. And we'll run that information for you somewhere during the course of this interview, so you'll be able to see it graphically, jot it down, and interact with the planning department. So I know, Norma, I did not do the planning department justice in my opening introduction. Give us a broader view of what the planning department does here in the county.
So the planning department really touches on almost anything that happens in this county. We have 5 fundamental sections within the department. There's an environmental planning section that deals with municipal stormwater and drainage and flooding issues. We have a land use section that works very, very closely with all our local municipalities because under general municipal law, we have to review actions if it's within 500 feet of county property, state properties, roadways, streams, or another municipality. We also have a design section where we provide actual design services to the municipalities and to our own departments to actually implement our own capital budget, our own facilities, and our CDBG program as well. We have an affordable housing section. So we have a team of folks that are focused on assisting the developers, assisting the municipalities to achieve affordable housing and to monitor that housing even after we've built it for many, many years thereafter to make sure the right families are in fact living in those units. And then lastly, what was new for this year is we now have a team of transportation planners in our department. And so we now have a real clear view of what's happening more directly, not just with our buses, but in doing the airport master plan right now. And then also right now we're taking a look at freight management and how trucks are coming into the county and things of that sort. So yeah, so we have the 5 real sections within the department that touch, like I said, almost everything that happens in this county.
Well, it's also interesting because I think people think of planning as a sort of a academic exercise where people are sitting, in an office and they're doing design things and they're assessing and doing an academic assessment of things. But the programs you're talking about have a real world effect on people's lives. This is not just some distant exercise.
Very much so. Okay, master plans that we're working on a grasslands master plan right now.
Right.
We bought that property over 100 years ago to be able to use it and to have property available for the uses that nobody else wanted in their backyards in this county. And look how it's now really developed into such an operation over there. But there's such important uses over there. So again, by doing that, last time we did that the Grasslands Master Plan officially was 1985. It's long overdue for us to take a look to see the remaining parcels, what the potentials are, how life has changed a little bit in terms of drainage.
More than a little bit.
Yeah, but even studying infrastructure in this county, there really is so much that we can take a bigger picture look at that assists and educates others on how do we move forward.
So your once every 10-year headache is called the census. And I have to tell you, being involved in some facet of government or another for the prior 3 decades, 90, 2000, 2010, I've never seen as much energy and effort put into the local level trying to make sure that we count everybody. Can you give us a little thumbnail sketch of where we are with the census to date? I know we've got until October 30th to do the best we can.
So tomorrow is actually 100 days since the census started on March 12th for 2020. So it's actually
a good time, right in the heart of the kickoff of COVID.
We couldn't have planned that. All of those plans that we had been working on since April 1st of last year, essentially almost all of them went out the window because suddenly we couldn't have census parties and events and we couldn't have census hubs where people could come and work on computers. So much of what we had planned to be able to count people and to make people feel comfortable that their information was safe and it was being used. I mean, thank God we did so much ahead of time in terms of getting out to all the municipalities and doing presentations that they ran on their own local stations and things like that. So thank God we had done at least that. But yeah, so we are right now about 62.5%, which means that there are still 37.5% of the households and the properties in this county that have not been counted. And so we're watching very closely. Each of our census tracts, that's the only level of data that we get at this point, is the data comes to us based on the response rate by census tract. So I can tell you our worst census tract, as I've told you in the past, is Grasslands right now, for good reason, because obviously the folks who live in the apartments on Grasslands have been a little bit busy. But we're now working with medical center to be able to get to the people who live in those apartments to remind them that now that things have slowed down a little bit and we're doing so much better with the virus that really it's not going to take you long. Completing the census is easy, it's safe, and it's important. So yeah, we're getting there. We have a high. The Village of Scarsdale is about hit 78%. So we're really doing really well. We have 5 municipalities that have now achieved their 2010 or exceeded their 2010 response rate, which again is good. We're about 5.5% away from the county achieving our response rate. But the challenges in each municipality are very, very different. You have some municipalities their response rate is very much internet oriented. And then you've got other municipalities that they're 13 and 14% non-internet, which means people are calling on the phone or they responded to the paper surveys.
And we haven't yet seen door-to-door effort done.
No.
That was originally scheduled in May. It's been postponed now to start in August. And that's often what people traditionally think as the census. A fellow with a clipboard coming down the street that you live on, ringing a doorbell. Who's that, Dad? Oh, that's the guy from the census. He's, And now I did it online, and it took me less than 10 minutes. It was not obtrusive. There were no questions that were asked about, personal information that, you think you could lose your credit card, security because of those kind of questions. They asked basic questions about the living household that you're in, demographic questions that help them frame I think accurately, the general sense of circumstances. And when I look at the different communities that have responded, pretty clearly there's a couple of communities that are lagging behind the rest, and there's no reason to point them out in this venue. But most of those communities have census committees, and I know they're working hard. I guess they are constrained by the fact of what's happened with the pandemic. They just can't go out and do all of the activities that they would like. I guess we think we're going to get that chance before October 31st.
That's our hope.
That's the hope.
Starting maybe even around July 4th is we're hoping to be able to do something. But again, we're working on activities that people will still are going to be very visual. We've had signs on our buses and bus stops since January, but now we're actually going to be updating all those signs to put a new message on there. Because again, as we said, almost 40% hasn't responded, so that message is going to start being out there. 40% of Westchester residents think they don't matter. Don't be one of them. That's going to be our new campaign that's going to be starting very soon. We printed 25,000 door hangs that we're going to actually be able to get out to
volunteers. Sounds like we're running a campaign of some sort.
But we're going to door hang so that you don't have to interact with anybody, but you can go through those public housing and the multifamily buildings and just hang it on their door, and then somebody will be able to say, oh, I didn't do it yet, let me get it done.
Well, and if they do want to fill out, just by watching this, if you haven't filled out the census, you can do it online right now. There's also a telephone number if you want to do it by telephone. But the My Census 2020 number, I should say email, is available to everybody. mycensus2020.gov, G-O-V. You could do it now if you haven't done it. It takes you no time at all, not intrusive, and you'll show up somewhere in that little graph that we get every day. So, we've been talking with Norma Drummond, who's the Commissioner of Planning for Westchester County. She has many different hats she wears, and certainly some of these innovative programs on housing is where we can do a lot of good. Norma, thank you for your leadership and all of your hard work over all this time. And please extend to your staff the same considerations.
Thank you very much.
So, happy to have you watching this episode of COVID Conversations. We should let you know that our morning conversations at 11 o'clock will be coming to an end. We'll do a couple next week with some municipal officials that we've already scheduled. And then we'll have for the next to last week of our 2 o'clock updates, a couple of conversations similar to this, where we'll touch on some topics. But we're reaching the point in the 1st of July where we have been through this for 4 months. We're starting to return to sort of a normal environment. County office building starts becoming staffed up. We've got a lot of things and issues that we sort of put on the side, put on the back burner while we dealt with COVID. We have to start dealing with the fiscal issues, which I will address before we end this little series. And our 2 o'clock updates will continue Monday through Thursday for the next couple of weeks. Our last scheduled 2 o'clock update will be on Monday, July 6th. That is the first day after the 4th of July weekend. It's also the last day that we'd be in phase 3 and just before we go into phase 4. As we're talking today, we're still in phase 2. And the coming Tuesday, the 23rd of June, we would enter phase 3. That's the phase where we open up restaurants inside as well as outside, tattoo parlors, tanning and waxing, a host of personal care places, nail salons. Not that I use any of these things, but somebody does, and that will be good for them. But the bottom line is, as we go through phase 3, if the numbers continue to go down, we'll cover that in the update later today. Then right when we're on the cusp of entering phase 4, we'll move away from the crisis, sort of situation we've been in now with interviews and updates on a daily basis. And then we'll use the opportunity to communicate as necessary so we can get back to things like affordable housing and food, census, food scrap recycling. We've got to finish the New Rochelle family court construction, make sure that's coming along well, get going on the Memorial Field project that we have long looked at, and hopefully start to stabilize the budget. And we'll talk more about that in another forum. So if you tune in at 2 o'clock today, we'll give you the update at that point in time. In the meantime, stay safe. George Latimer, County Executive, thanks for watching.